July heat shimmered across the tarmac at Catania. Mediterranean sun blazed overhead. Long shadows stretched between parked aircraft. Italian fighters sat ready for combat. Captain Franco Lucini climbed into his cockpit that morning. The Machi C-202 Fulgor gleamed in golden light. 10 aerial victories marked his fuselage. His reputation preceded him through every squadron. The 4th Stormo prepared for battle. Pilots checked instruments with practiced hands. Ground crews made final adjustments. Everyone sensed something different approaching. Through morning haze came an unfamiliar shape. Something massive moved against the southern sky. The aircraft appeared almost twice normal fighter size. Its bulk defied everything Italian pilots understood about aerial combat. Lucini squinted through his canopy. What kind of monster approached their domain? The silhouette grew larger with each passing moment. This was no ordinary enemy fighter. Unknown to the Italian pilot, Republic aviation had created something revolutionary. The P-47 Thunderbolt carried a nickname that suited its appearance perfectly. American pilots called it the Jug. Its ungainly proportions disguised devastating capability. 8 50-caliber machine guns nested in those broad wings. 17,000 pounds of fully loaded aircraft thundered through Mediterranean skies. Everything about this machine challenged conventional fighter philosophy. 2 years of dominance had shaped Italian aerial tactics. Mediterranean combat had proven their aircraft philosophy correct. Light fighters danced around heavier opponents. Agility trumped brute force in every engagement. The Machi C-202 Fulgor embodied this thinking perfectly. Graceful lines spoke of speed and maneuverability. Tight turning circles had saved countless Italian lives. Quick climbs had provided escape from dangerous situations. Malta had witnessed their success. North Africa had seen their victories. Eastern Front combat had earned grudging Allied respect. Italian pilots had mastered the art of aerial ballet. Operation Husky shattered these assumptions completely. Allied invasion forces brought unprecedented firepower to Sicily. American industrial might revealed itself through countless aircraft types. P-40 Warhawks filled the skies in massive formations. British Spitfires provided familiar opposition. But something entirely different accompanied these expected enemies. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt defied every aerial combat convention. 36 feet of aircraft stretched from nose to tail. 10,000 pounds empty weight dwarfed nimble Italian fighters. American pilots themselves initially doubted their massive mount. Early 1943 had seen considerable skepticism among Thunderbolt pilots. The aircraft ought to be able to dive reasonably well. Climbing performance seemed questionable at best. RAF pilots politely suggested their American colleagues faced certain death. Such ponderous machines couldn't possibly survive against swift Messerschmitts. German fighters would devour these flying trucks. Every assumption proved completely wrong. Italian intelligence officers studied early combat reports with growing confusion. The P-47 wasn't just surviving Mediterranean combat. This supposedly clumsy giant was thriving against experienced opposition. Veteran Regia Aeronautica pilots found themselves outfought repeatedly. The secret lay beneath that bulbous cowling. Pratt and Whitney Engineering had created something remarkable. The R-2800 Double Wasp generated incredible power. 2,000 horsepower drove the massive propeller. Turbocharger systems provided phenomenal altitude performance. More importantly, devastating firepower waited in those wings. 8 synchronized Browning machine guns created unprecedented destruction. 100 rounds per second could obliterate any aircraft. The mathematics of aerial gunnery had shifted dramatically. Major Giuseppe Santoro witnessed this transformation firsthand. The 9th Fighter Group veteran approached expecting easy victories. American trucks would fall before experienced Italian pilots. Combat reality proved brutally different. Firing commenced from what seemed reasonable range. Lead filled the air like solid walls. No aircraft could survive such concentrated firepower. Traditional Italian fighters carried 2 synchronized guns typically. Wing-mounted weapons might add additional firepower. The Thunderbolt's 8 guns created something entirely unprecedented. 300 yards represented normal aerial firing range. 8 streams of 50-caliber bullets spread into circles 30 feet across. Italian pilots had never faced such overwhelming destruction potential. Survival had always depended on aircraft agility. The Fulgor could turn inside most Allied fighters. Pursuers would overshoot and present counterattack opportunities. This tactic had proven devastatingly effective against Spitfires and P-40s. Thunderbolts played by completely different rules. Captain Alessandro Bladelli learned this harsh lesson during morning patrol. July 12th brought 4 P-47s below his formation. Classic bounce tactics seemed appropriate for the situation. Diving from the sun should catch Americans unaware. Bladelli closed to firing range on the trailing Thunderbolt confidently. The massive fighter suddenly rolled inverted without warning. Diving acceleration left Italian pilots gasping in disbelief. Impossible speeds carried the P-47 beyond pursuit range. Weight and powerful engines created this advantage. The Thunderbolt simply dove away faster than lighter fighters could follow. More unsettling still was what happened next. Climbing turns matched the Fulgor's performance despite enormous size disadvantage. Everything Italian pilots knew about fighter combat had become obsolete overnight. American engineering philosophy differed completely from European thinking. Agility and climb rate had dominated fighter design traditionally. American priorities emphasized firepower, durability, and high-altitude capability. The result challenged every conventional assumption about aerial warfare. Aircraft could absorb tremendous damage, while delivering punishment, nothing could survive. Lieutenant Giulio Reiner experienced this firepower during dogfights near Gerbini Airfield. His C-202 took what seemed like light hits. A few strikes barely registered on aircraft controls. Landing attempts revealed the true extent of damage. 50-caliber bullets had shredded hydraulic lines completely. Fuel tanks showed multiple punctures. Engine mounts had sustained serious damage. Light damage would have destroyed any aircraft built to different standards. American ruggedness standards changed everything about combat survival. Psychological impact struck Italian pilots immediately and profoundly. 2 years of outmaneuvering opponents through superior handling had built confidence. P-47 arrival shattered these fundamental assumptions. American fighters combined overwhelming firepower with performance negating traditional advantages. Colonel Mario Bonzano faced crisis among his most experienced pilots. Combat reports filled command desks daily. Every account told identical stories. Italian formations attacking bomber streams found themselves overwhelmed. Superior numbers meant nothing against P-47 escort capability. Sheer destructive power of American fighters changed everything about aerial warfare. Mathematical reality couldn't be ignored any longer. Italian fighters needed multiple good hits for P-47 kills. Single accurate Thunderbolt bursts obliterated Machi aircraft completely. Irony wasn't lost on veteran Italian pilots. Intelligence photographs had initially provoked laughter. The massive American fighter seemed like crude engineering. Elegant Fulgor lines embodied everything Italians believed about proper design. The P-47 resembled a flying truck by comparison. Laughter died away as July progressed. Allied forces consolidated their Sicilian grip systematically. The ugly American truck dismantled experienced fighter pilots methodically. Squadron after squadron found themselves outgunned. Opponents once dismissed as too clumsy proved devastatingly effective. Major Adriano Visconti watched his tactical environment transform completely. Considerable success in nimble C-202 aircraft meant nothing anymore. P-47 arrival forced abandonment of traditional energy-fighting tactics. Hit-and-run attacks minimized exposure to devastating guns. Opportunity hunting replaced prolonged dogfighting completely. American Thunderbolts possessed too much firepower and durability. Single mistakes guaranteed death in new combat environment. Human costs mounted rapidly throughout July 1943. Italian fighter strength over Sicily dropped by half. Losses to P-47s represented only part of the problem. Psychological impact kept experienced pilots grounded. Mechanical problems were reported with suspicious frequency. Men who once eagerly sought combat now avoided engagement. The story remained far from over, despite these setbacks. Battle for Sicily raged through summer months. Italian pilots began adapting to their new reality. P-47 dominance in direct confrontation seemed absolute. But limitations still existed for cunning pilots to exploit. The real test would come with adaptation. Both sides needed to learn this new kind of warfare. Firepower and durability mattered more than grace and agility. Industrial warfare replaced elegant aerial combat traditions. Mathematical mass production and overwhelming firepower ground down individual skill. Italian pilots who believed skill overcame any disadvantage faced harsh awakening. P-47 Thunderbolt represented Total War's true nature. August 1943 dawned over Sicily with new realities. Laughter from Italian briefing rooms had faded months earlier. Captain Furio Nicolo Doglio adjusted parachute harness in pre-dawn darkness. Crotone Airfield in Calabria witnessed this transformation. Confidence in outfighting any Allied pilot had evaporated completely. Each mission now required grim calculation. Survival depended on respecting lethal mathematics of 8 guns. Evacuation from Sicily had been humbling retreat. But breathing room allowed tactical innovation. Squadron commanders gathered experienced pilots for urgent conferences. Approach to aerial combat would be reshaped completely. Americans had brought overwhelming firepower to Mediterranean theater. But firepower alone couldn't win wars. Effective application remained crucial for success. Major Luigi Guerini analyzed combat reports extensively. 14 confirmed victories would eventually mark his record. Weeks of interviewing surviving pilots provided sobering conclusions. Practical solutions emerged from careful analysis. The Thunderbolt wasn't completely invincible despite appearances. Different rules governed P-47 combat effectiveness. Learning those rules meant survival. Ignoring them guaranteed death. First Fighter Group received these briefings. Tactical revolution followed, represented remarkable adaptation in aviation history. Individual combat traditions and aircraft agility had shaped Italian pilot training. Entirely new warfare concepts now demanded embrace. P-47 devastating firepower and remarkable durability made prolonged dogfights suicidal. Hit-and-run tactics maximized superior climb while minimizing gun exposure. New approaches received testing during massive air battles. August 17th brought combat over Strait of Messina. 36 P-47 Thunderbolts from the 57th Fighter Group escorted B-25 Mitchell bombers. Evacuation shipping attacks encountered coordinated assault by 42 Italian fighters. Multiple squadrons participated in carefully planned engagement. The Messina lesson demonstrated adaptation and cunning overcoming raw firepower. Sergeant Major Teresio Martinoli flew Machi C-205 Veltro with 9th Fighter Group. Traditional head-on assaults gave way to multi-directional approaches. Brilliant August sun and scattered clouds provided essential cover. Strike fast, hit hard, disengage quickly became the formula. P-47s couldn't bring superior firepower to bear effectively. Multiple directions confused American defensive reactions. Falcons diving from the sun described the new tactic. 4 aircraft targeted rear Thunderbolt, while formations engaged escort fighters. Long bursts into engines created visible damage. American pilot fought aircraft control unsuccessfully. Smoke and flame trailed the descending P-47. 7-minute engagement demonstrated Italian adaptation to Thunderbolt vulnerabilities. P-47s could outgun and outmuscle Italian fighters effectively, but climbing performance couldn't match lighter opponents. Aircraft size made easier targets for skilled approaches. American overconfidence in machine capabilities created opportunities. Predictable flight patterns allowed experienced Italian pilots to anticipate movements. Tactical adaptation came at terrible costs, however. Attrition mathematics worked inexorably against Regia Aeronautica capabilities. Individual engagement victories meant nothing strategically. Seemingly unlimited American resources replaced every P-47 loss. 3 aircraft appeared for every one destroyed. Italian losses remained completely irreplaceable. Lieutenant Colonel Giuseppe Pesci commanded 5th Fighter Wing at Mandaria. Unit strength dwindled throughout August 1943 systematically. Combat reports told stories in stark numbers. 18 serviceable aircraft on August 5th. 14 remained by August 15th. 9 aircraft survived until August 25th. Each loss represented irreplaceable experience and training. Human drama unfolded beyond simple statistics. Captain Robert Johnson flew P-47s with 56th Fighter Group. Repeated encounters over invasion beaches developed grudging respect. Italian opponents weren't expected pushovers. These pilots knew their business thoroughly. Older planes with less firepower didn't diminish their effectiveness. Intelligence and tactical thinking compensated for material disadvantages. Johnson's observations reflected broader combat realities. P-47 dominance through firepower and durability remained significant. Italian pilots possessed irreplaceable advantages, however. Intimate geographical knowledge couldn't be manufactured industrially. Shorter supply lines provided logistical benefits. Desperate motivation of homeland defense drove extraordinary efforts. Mid-August evacuation of Axis forces from Sicily demonstrated these advantages. Despite overwhelming Allied air superiority, extraction proceeded successfully. Nearly 140,000 troops crossed Messina Strait safely. Substantial equipment accompanied evacuating forces. Small Italian fighter formations avoided direct P-47 confrontation. Precision strikes and psychological pressure disrupted Allied air attacks. Appropriate tactics still influenced battle outcomes. Evacuation success proved P-47 dominance wasn't absolutely complete. Experienced pilots using proper tactics achieved results. But broader strategic reality remained unchanged. Italy fought losing war against unlimited industrial capacity. Growing enemy combat experience compounded the problem. Mainland Italy became the next battlefield. P-47 groups from 12th Air Force operated from captured Sicilian airfields. Different opponent types emerged in mountainous terrain. Italian pilots adopted aerial guerrilla roles. Quick strikes at vulnerable targets preceded disappearance into terrain. Major James Toner commanded 318th Fighter Squadron P-47 operations. Foggia Airfield provided operational base. Combat reports noted significant changes in Italian tactics. Dogfighting attempts had been abandoned completely. Supply columns, airfields, and unescorted bombers became targets. Effectiveness and frustration marked this new approach. Guerrilla air warfare reached climax during Salerno landings. September 1943 brought Allied amphibious assault. Central Italy bases launched daring low-level attacks. Allied shipping and beach positions received attention. P-47s optimized for high-altitude combat struggled with hit-and-run responses. Congested invasion beach airspace complicated interception efforts. Captain Mario Belligambi flew battle-worn C-202 from Graziani Airfield. Dawn attack on September 12 exemplified new approaches. Four-plane formation struck Allied shipping off Salerno. Wave-top flying avoided radar detection systems. Defensive screens were penetrated before reaction occurred. Transport vessel sinking preceded P-47 response by crucial minutes. 3-minute engagements proved speed and surprise overcame superior firepower. Tactical successes couldn't alter strategic deterioration, however. September 8th, armistice split Regia Aeronautica completely. Allied cooperation versus continued German alliance divided units. Unit cohesion shattered with leadership elimination. Most experienced officers chose different sides. Puppet Italian Social Republic continued fighting. Newer American aircraft posed fresh challenges. P-51 Mustangs brought superior range and performance. Improved P-47 models featured bubble canopies and increased firepower. Technological gaps widened with each passing month. Tactics and determination couldn't overcome growing disadvantages. Lieutenant Dale Hargrove flew 350th Fighter Group missions. P-47 operations over northern Italy revealed final transformation. Dangerous opponents fought hopeless battles visibly. Patched aircraft and smaller formations told stories. Irreplaceable losses mounted without adequate replacement. Sadness accompanied tactical victories increasingly. Hargrove's observations proved prophetic, unfortunately. December 27, 1944, brought railway bridge attack near Brescia. German anti-aircraft fire struck his P-47 fatally. Crash near Somma Lombardo ended his war. War evolution became clear through such incidents. German flak and ground defenses threatened Allied pilots more than remaining Italian air power. P-47 dominance over Italian fighters transcended simple technological superiority. Two fundamentally different warfare philosophies collided decisively. European traditions emphasized individual skill and aircraft elegance. American approaches stressed overwhelming firepower and industrial mass production. Italian pilots entered contest with manufactured advantages. Years of combat experience provided tactical knowledge. Intimate terrain familiarity offered strategic benefits. Aircraft suited perfectly to their fighting styles. But advantages proved insufficient against replaceable opponents. Losses were inflicted slower than replacement occurred. American pilots gained combat experience rapidly. Italy's exclusive possession of experience dissolved quickly. Thunderbolt 50 caliber machine guns symbolized transformation. Deadly aerial ballet gave way to brutal exchanges. Graceful maneuvering seeking perfect shots ended. Overwhelming firepower reduced dogfights to seconds. Survival depended on avoiding engagement entirely. Quick endings prevented enemy response completely. Major Adriano Visconti achieved 11 victories against P-47s. 26 total victories marked his final record. The war changed everything about aerial combat. Knights of Air believing skill overcame obstacles learned harsh lessons. American factories won wars as much as pilots. Metal weight mattered as much as touch lightness. Laughter directed at ungainly P-47s gave way to professional respect. Thunderbolt 8 guns hadn't just dominated Sicilian dogfights. New era announcements reshaped combat nature completely. American industrial might revolutionized warfare itself. War's inevitable conclusion brought former enemies together. Italian pilots flew alongside previous opponents. American aircraft, including P-47 Thunderbolts, were adopted. Veterans like Luigi Gorini described learning American fighters. Lightweight boxers trying heavyweight fighting captured the experience. Power proved intoxicating completely. But grace was gone forever from aerial combat. Thunder over Mediterranean changed everything permanently. Contrails and gunsmoke wrote legacies across ancient skies. Eternal City witnessed this transformation completely. Mediterranean combat would never be the same again.